All right, so I think we're live streaming and we're ready to roll here.
Okay. May 26th, 2021, our virtual long-range planning committee meeting. No, I don't see, we don't have any minutes to review. It's really about an informal discussion of the plan review by members to date. So, Jay, is there anything to prepare, or are we
No,
really striking up a conversation?
nope, I think you hit it off just right. We had talked at the last meeting about trying to find a meeting time, and June 4th seemed to be the time where we could really get everyone together, but there was a feeling that we should try to at least have one more conversation to identify any last edits that folks might see coming out of the work GP Cog did. So,
Mr. Chair, I will not be at the June 4th meeting. I will be in Chicago at my nephew's long delayed wedding. So
Congratulations.
Sounds like fun.
it should be wild and crazy if I know him, but you know, what can I say?
That's what weddings are for.
Exactly.
so maybe what I can do is kick the conversation off just by bringing up at least the two pieces of public comment or emails that we received, and see where folks want to go with those. I think there have been some email or some chatter, but we did receive comment from Allison Bristol related to language around the villages and how they're described in our conservation and growth map section of the plan. I know we've talked about this issue a few times, and maybe I know I've sent you the language, so I'll leave it there for now and see what committee members' thoughts are.
Well, I'll jump in. It's Marvin. I did see the email that you sent out, Jay, and I saw the response from fellow committee members. And I was pleased you brought it up about Allison Bristol's contribution, because that's the one thing that we overlooked, I think, the last meeting, or we've kicked that down the road a couple of meetings. She brought it up, I thought, fairly, and I sort of felt bad we never got to it one way or the other. Otherwise, I would agree with Councillor Katarina's, I think, comment in the email, which had to do with, that ship has sailed. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Jean Marie, but unless it's brought up by a committee member, I don't think we should consider it. I think I have that right. And this would be the one exception, because Ms. Bristol has brought this up appropriately, I thought, in the past. And the only other comment I have about this is I agree with fellow committee members about Ms. Bristol's specific language. And I thought the way you composed it, Jay, in your suggestion was perfect. So I'm in favor of your language, Jay.
Yeah, I guess I would go along with that as well.
I would disagree. Imagine that. I know, Ms. Bristol brought that up in the past, as did some other Higgins Beach people. I think that what we've done with the language in there makes sense. I'm not quite sure what it is with Higgins Beach, but they just can't leave well enough alone sometimes with what do I want? Descriptions of the area. I have connections to Higgins Beach myself, family connections. And I think that it's not necessary to put in that extra wording, that you need, because I think it makes it And I apologize, I don't have the email right in front of me. I haven't had a chance to bring it up yet. But I know that there was some comment from, was it Corey? That he felt that that was just one step too far, but am I misremembering? Jay, do you mind while I look for that email?
Yep, I'm digging it up myself right now. If you...
Yeah, Jean Marie, I responded to Corey as well and concurred with Corey's comments. The one thing I'd add to that, and I agree with everything you said about sort of the Higgins Beach issues that have come up in the past. I think we've addressed them and dealt with them appropriately. The paragraph that Jay proposed to improve the language, actually, I think does a better job than what CPCOG came up with. And it was the one part of the CPCOG additional language that I was a little uncomfortable with. I didn't think it was explicit enough in describing describing the fact that each village is unique, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Jay has improved what CPCOG came up with, and this was probably the one piece of language that I would have wanted to see a tweak to. So I'd be in favor of Jay's paragraph, and I think Corey was broadly in favor as well.
Is this what you just put up here, Jay? Is your verbiage?
Yeah, and really what all I've added here is the words development and, you can see underlined. So it really talks about Higgins Beach having limited capacity for expanded development and services. So we had previously.
Yeah, okay, I could live with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jean Marie, I think this adds to the idea that it's still designated a growth area because of the state language of what a growth area is.
Right.
But yeah, so.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I missed this. So
Yep.
I've been out straight, so I apologize. No, I agree, Peter.
And hopefully the reference to Higgins there is, is an appropriate nod to Allison on this. So, I know it's used not as, there are other village areas that a number of us live in where this is a similar matter. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear, it's Jay's very minor language change that I have no trouble with.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I think that's what
Likewise.
Okay, so hearing that, I'll make that amendment on the plan and get this reposted as we make any other tweaks.
So Jay, just for our education, in terms of the process right now, you've got to publish this for public notice, correct? And if we make any, I'm not suggesting we make many edits at this point, but any edits you make will go on the live document on the website, on the town website. How do we track? I mean, I guess I want to avoid little tiny edits to this, as I suppose you do. What's your thought process?
So I think having this meeting is the timing's very good for having this meeting. If we get this document posted by May 30th, so basically by this Friday, if we get the document posted, we'll sort of meet the state requirements for having the document posted. So I would say really this is the week to make any tweaks. I know Marvin dropped off a bunch of, small grammatical, misses of the words of, or just the INGs at the end of the word. So we'll be going through that and getting this thing posted this week. So really, I think today, as we talked about at the last meeting, is the day to really talk about any tweaks coming out of the committee. Certainly, if through the council public comment process or public hearing process, if there's changes, then that's a different, we'll deal with that. But that's the intent of that process, is to see what else there might be. But for this committee's work, if we can get through everything this week, we'll have it posted and ready to go, and see where it takes us from there.
Jay, can you remind me of the timeline with the council?
Yep. So there's a council workshop / public hearing. It's posted as a public hearing on June 9th.
Mhm.
There is a joint public, so I should also say my understanding is, actually I'm going to step back a second. council has identified that they really want to take the comprehensive plan through the same sort of process they would with a zoning change in terms of a first reading, a public hearing, and a second reading. So June 9th is really first reading, but being layered in with that first reading is a workshop and a public hearing.
Yep.
June 16th is a joint public hearing of this committee, planning board, and town council. June 30th is a joint public hearing of this committee and council and anticipated council's second reading, which is adoption.
I was going to say that's the action then.
That's
So
the
the action is,
Anticipated for June 30th.
Yeah,
Assuming,
okay.
you know,
that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I had it right. Yep.
And I just want to add, Jake, to the point in this discussion that this is really important from a public standpoint. We've experienced this a little bit with the budget process this year, and the fact that there are a large number of major initiatives all flowing down the pipe here in a end of June timing. A couple of the ad hoc committees may be postponed a little bit in terms of their findings, but the budget, the comp plan, and also the GMO, we want to make sure that we give the public ample opportunity to participate in any and all of those meetings and, to bring forth whatever they have, because for whatever reason, we just haven't seen the sort of response that we've had in the past. We were having a hard time on trying to determine exactly how to gauge that as a positive or a negative. So.
Yeah, and frankly, when I saw the schedule, I was like, whoa, it's kind of overkill, but I understand what Mr. Hamill's saying, just because, we don't want to leave any stone unturned, so to speak. And, the nature of the public, when it comes to town council matters, is until it hits them in the face, you don't hear from them. So we're going to put it out there, hit them in the face, and see if any reaction we get. So
In a nice way.
yes. Remember, it's early morning. I'm cranky.
If there are public comments or if other things come up that need to be addressed, when is the drop dead that that the plan could be changed in order to still be approved on June 30th? I mean, there must be some back off date before that.
Technically, it can be changed at second reading. I mean, if it follows anything else, a counselor could make changes and that's it. And then it gets voted on right then and there with no further
Okay.
public input. So
Yeah, but I don't believe that resets a 30-day clock.
no, it doesn't. No,
yeah,
not
I guess-
unless it's really substantive. But what are the chances of that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would
Right,
think
Jay?
if it's, if we're just I guess I would need to have a conversation with the town's attorney, because when I was reading the state statute, it does seem to indicate that there are changes to the plan, then you need to that come out of public hearing, then you do need to repost it. But I don't, with the two public hearings we're having, typically, the way the state statute reads it, all you need to do is have one public hearing and then you can take action. We're building in these additional layers. So I really need to have a conversation with Phil Saucier, our attorney, to understand if there are changes that come up at June 9th or June 16th. Seems to me that gives us ample time to post those. But I would defer to his opinion on that matter.
Marvin?
The young lady from GP Cog mentioned the town, I think, of Topsom, and I realized they have to vote on had to vote on their comp plan. But she mentioned in the process there, and she showed us an example of a big ad in their local newspaper. I'm not sure if I'm understanding completely from the counselors the issues of public response or not, but if I am, you're seeking to stir the pot a little bit and see if the public has anything to say. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but my point is this: should the committee consider the idea of putting some kind of ad in the leader saying this is all happening and putting the link to the comp plan, and we want to hear from you, or some such thing like that. Is that appropriate? Is that sort of thing been done in the past?
Do we have money for that?
So I'll be working with our communications coordinator on getting the word out. We're certainly going to use the e-newsletter, Facebook postings. There's going to be advertisements of the public hearings going in the newspaper. So again, I'll be working with, the town has a communication coordinator on how best to get the word out. So.
The only follow-up suggestion I might make, and I'm going to volunteer somebody else, Peter, what about a editorial or something like that in the Leader? Something written by a committee member urging people to participate. And this may be totally inappropriate, and obviously Peter and you probably don't want to do it, but it's only an idea, and I'm floating it as a suggestion.
Happy to do something. I mean, like a letter to the editor in sort of thing, or
Yeah, well, they give you, I mean, sometimes they'll give people some, a third of a page or a quarter of a page, side to side, if it's of an important enough and public matter. So I think that could happen. I know I've seen it happen numerous times in the past with other issues. This one seems important, though.
Yeah. I mean, I do enough writing. Jay, I'd be happy to work with the communications director and reach out to the Leader and try and get a few inches of column space just to write something, letting people know what the process has been and encourage them to engage at the workshop and in the readings.
And we have column space available for town business, so to speak, under Council's Corner and I don't know, whatever. So that may be something to do. The only thing is to make sure that everyone on the committee wants to do it, because it has to come forward from the committee. It can't come forward from Peter as Peter.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, and I guess I might just, this is part of the reason my understanding of why the town in the last, 6 months, a year, hired our communication coordinators to really help us do these things, to see the big picture, right? Because this committee's working on this, council's working on other things, other committees are working on other initiatives. So really to be the one who helps us understand how to best communicate all the different things that are happening. So I'll be having a conversation with Allison today to talk about that. Now that we have the dates, these dates really just got codified within the last 2 or 3 days. So yeah, I think we'll work on, and if the notion of, an article in the Leader rather than just an advertisement or what have you comes up, then we can circle back to, Peter, I could reach out to you, or we can, however we best see to do it. But
I think if we could put something in the Leader that's not a sort of standard town meeting advertisement, but actual column space would make a ton of sense. But to your point, Jay, let's work through the communications coordinator, and happy to be the random guy who's quoted saying, all you people should be excited and come and join us down at the town hall.
If I understood Jean Marie correctly, we need a vote on that. Obviously, it's not a foregone conclusion, but Jay, should the communication director decide that an article by Peter would be desirable, may we vote now, up or down, approving that idea?
Is that our call to make? Or is
yeah,
it-
I guess, if there's going to be an article in the paper, I think I like the way Peter put it, probably be something that staff would work on. And then, yes, we might attribute a quote to Peter that we'd run under his nose to say, hey, Peter, we're going to say you said this, which is.
Been there, done that, Jay. Not a problem. Not a problem.
Or others on the committee. So, yeah, I don't, of course, if the committee wants to have a committee letter, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But I think Marvin
I would assume it's purely informational. It's not expressing
Right.
opinion. It's just get out there, read the plan
Read the
and
plan. These are the
come
things.
speak if you feel there's something.
We're excited
necessary.
about the amount of work and time and energy that everyone in the town has put into it to date. We'd love to have your engagement at this final stage prior to approval, and come on down. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would clarify my comments by saying, yes, if it's an opinion piece, it's gotta have a
Yeah.
vote on it. But if it's coming from the town, so to speak, as long as people on the committee are good with it, because committees obviously work as one and not, you shouldn't have this one saying one thing and another member saying something else and the third member saying a third thing. Because everyone needs to speak as one, so.
And Marvin, in that sense, the way that I view it is our act of approving the plan for submission to the council is the opinion that we take as a committee. And that opinion is spoken through our vote, presumably on the 4th.
Really appreciate the clarification and point taken, Peter.
Okay, if we're still talking about edits,
Yep.
I don't have any substantive changes, but I did notice a pagination problem. And it happens in 3 different places. If you go to page 97, which the upper left corner the section is excise tax revenues, and then you flip the page, it's page 96, plan framework.
Yep.
Then there's a big picture on the right. And then you flip that page and the next page is 100.
Yep.
So it goes from 97, new section 96,
Yep.
and then 2 pages later, 100. So somewhere in there there's a pagination problem. And the same problem appears starting at page 107. If you flip 107, go to 10, the next page is a picture of some pipe plovers. And then it's the header for the next section, 107. And then you flip the page and it's 110. And then it happens once again, starting with page 153, flip the page, the next page is 152 with the header. Then there's another picture of another bird. And then you flip the page and it's 156. So somewhere the pagination got messed up in those 3 sections. And I don't know what fixing that's going to do by way of the index or any internal page references, but it's messed up.
Yeah. So
That's really,
I noticed
all.
that at least one of those. I didn't actually catch the other 2, but I think it looks like it's just really changing that one page number, and then the reference. So there's.
well, it'd be a little bit more than, it would be more than that.
Yeah.
Because the pagination is good through page 97.
Right, but then what it does, that where it says 96 just needs to say 98, right? Because as you said, if you follow, it goes 96, 97,
Yes.
96, blank,
if
100.
Right.
Yeah,
The plan framework
we'll get it
page-
fixed.
Yeah, if the plan framework
Yeah.
page said 98
Right,
instead of 96,
exactly.
and then same with respect to
Yep.
page 107, that should be
Right.
109, I guess. And
My-
then that third header would be the header driving success 152 should be whatever, 150.
Right. My guess is it wouldn't interfere with indexing or whatever, because those are merely introductory summaries of what's following.
Well, actually, it
Eh.
would, because if you look at the index,
Right.
it says
Content
that
needs to get changed.
it says that the index pages are consistent with the incorrect page numbers on those 3 headers.
Yep.
I mean,
Could you tell me?
These are easy fixes, Jean Marie.
Yeah, okay.
So
Don't worry about it, Jean
Yeah.
Marie. But
No,
but it
I'm
will
not worried. I
require,
was
on
just gonna say, of course, I haven't even looked at the index, so there you go.
No,
Well, the index will need to be fixed as well.
Yeah.
I was glad you caught those other two, because I had caught in Marvin as well, the 97, 90, 96, 96 thing, or 96, 97, 96. So anyway, yep,
Yeah, that's it.
good catch.
That's it.
And I know, Martha, as long as we're talking about some detail here, I think Marvin has really captured, a lot of the wording and phrasing and punctuation, so forth, typos. But I did spot a typo on 177. It talks about refine the town's compete streets. I think that should be complete streets.
Complete
What
streets,
page was
right.
that, Don?
177.
177.
You guys should go work with my daughter at the University of
Yeah,
Chicago Academic Press. She's an editor there. She could
Yeah,
hire,
this
she'll
does
hire
not
you
like
guys
me.
to do her work.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would like to think, and again, this is just that any of those type of changes, if we keep picking those up,
Yeah,
those should not have to reset our public hearing time frame.
no, exactly right. Yeah, I mean,
that is just administrative to the, but it's great. Obviously, the more we can get ahead of time, the better, obviously. So please keep them coming. But,
we used to refer to
the
people.
attorney tells us that adding an L in the document to make a word make sense starts the process.
Jay, you should award a rate buster, prize for that. But
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
So Jay, in terms of those 3 meeting dates,
Yep.
The first one, June
9.
9th, conflicts with the land trust annual meeting, so I can't be there, but I can be at the second and the third meetings.
Yeah, and so thank you for that. And I think my understanding is really the June 9 one, though it would be great to have long-range planning committee members there to listen. My understanding is really council's workshop. So I'm not sure what role, and this is a conversation I'll continue to have with Tom to really understand what the roles and expectations are for that meeting. But then this following 2 are joint meetings with this board. And so what I would anticipate is that we'll sort of have a joint hearing, certainly on the 16th, and that'll be really what happens. But on the 30th, assuming all goes well, we'll probably have a joint hearing. The hearing will end, assuming we're all still on Zoom. I don't know, maybe we'll be in person, who knows what happens. Long-range planning committee members will be, excused, if you will, or, then the town council will take up an actual vote, and committee members will, really become council's action at that time. So that's how I have envisioned those working. But again, I need to talk with Tom, who needs to talk with council leadership to get their take. But certainly,
That's actually helpful, Jay. So the 30th is going to have both a joint session, and then the town will take up the approval. It's not just the town taking up the approval on the second reading.
correct. It would be, there will be, presumably with all the public hearings that we had back in the fall, where we really hopefully received the bulk of any changes that folks want to see. And then these 2 public hearings on the 9th and 16th, that the 30th will hopefully be a relatively short public hearing. Who knows?
Okay.
But yes, and then, as you just said, council will presumably take action, or at least that's the going plan.
Well, I have no big content or substantive changes. I appreciate, Marvin, all the grammatical corrections and notes, spelling and so forth for all those that are into that level of detail. So I don't have a lot to add in terms of content changes for this group today. Anybody else?
So Robin has a hand up.
Yeah.
Thanks, and I recognize that I'm late to the party, rejoining the committee, and I'm happy to talk about any of these one-on-one with you, Jay. But in my review, I guess, do we feel like, I guess there's 4 things. One is, I feel like the town's agricultural history has been glazed over a little bit. I know when I moved to town 22 years ago, it was still very much an ag town. So I feel like that was missed. Also, that prime farmland, which is a natural protected resource, is not really mapped out and spelled out very well. So that's related to that. The other thing that I think is a little bit lackluster is the indigenous people history. I know that there was one mention of it in a preliminary sort of title page, but we have a lot of natural history here in Scarborough that has to do with that. So that's two. I don't think there's specific enough information about the potential use of TIFs in the town. I think that TIFs are an extremely powerful tool to promote development that the town has used in the past. And I don't see a clear path forward for how TIFs are going to be used, but maybe it isn't meant to be in there. And fourth, the last thing is I don't think that there's a lot of specifics around, we do a lot of specifics in here around addressing resiliency and climate change, but not enough around natural resource efficiency and protection. So again, I recognize the frustration that my comments are being so late and not offering specifics, but I'm happy to work on this, or maybe if I understand the next steps after the comprehensive plan is adopted, maybe it could be a charge to some, an implementation committee, or maybe it's sort of, here are some thoughts for where we need to add a little more detail to the action plan. So I apologize again for being late to the party and having specifics with no proposed action yet, but I'm happy to work on that if these comments are perceived as constructive.
If I could, I appreciate your comments, Robin, but yeah, it would have been good to have had them a lot earlier. I would remind the committee that comp plans can be modified, edited, whatever you want to call it, after the fact, i.e. there's a process for it. So you can put a comp plan out and then you can amend it. Towns don't generally do that because, I'm going to be bluntly honest with you. So watch out, here I go. Comp plans aren't meant to be totally granular. They're like the broad brush with some details that, are used by the planning boards and whatever in determining, the direction of a town. But to be, the average Joe will never look at a comp plan. As you know, you're on the planning board. People who look at it are the people before the planning board, and that's about it. And planners and whatever. So it's funny you say that about indigenous people, because that did cross my mind in one of my final readings, of the history of the town, particularly given, some of my thoughts on things that would happen. And thank you very much for taking care of the character thing that was going on in the background of the comp plan. But I don't know. Again, I appreciate your thoughts, Robin, but I think it's a little late in the party for that. But it's something certainly we could keep in mind if we feel that it needs to be amended because someone's driving a truck through any of those holes. Does that make sense to people? I know I'm kind of wandering along here with my mouth, so.
Jean Marie, I think it's helpful on both the ag side and the indigenous peoples or the indigenous history side. The thing I'll observe is the comp plan history section is not meant to be an exhaustive history of the town. It's meant to be high level. It's almost throwaway language. I hate to say it, that you have to include, but it's not meant to be anything more than a little bit of context. And if we were to capture all of the elements of the town's history that are relevant for how we got to here today, it would be a 45-page section, if not more. So I think for what it is, there's lots of elements of the history of the town that I'm a historian. That's what I did at school. And there's a lot of things I can find off with that in terms of a 3-page history of the tree of it, but in the context of the document, it's fine. Because I think what really matters for context is the following section, which says, here's what we're experiencing today. So some of their comments about natural resource usage, I actually would slightly disagree with. I think that the document does a very good job in thinking about that. It focuses on sea change in a number of areas, or it has a greater emphasis on focus on some of the coastline and marsh changes. But I think that probably is somewhat related to what we see as most relevant at this moment in 2021. And I think that's okay. So I hear your comments, and it's great. I know I understand the feeling of coming late to the party. Marvin and I only came, I think, in February, so we're both late to the party too. But I think all that stuff, generally speaking, is adequately addressed for what the document is. The TIF comment, I think, is something that we might want to mark down, because I think that is an implementation comment, and I was surprised that we had. Not surprised, because of the use of the TIF for the Downs project. It does get a little bit of conversation there, but as we think about implementation going forward, the use of it in future development opportunities or future concentrated development ideas is probably a good one. But again, I think we make enough mention of it that for the document for what it is today is in good shape. So hopefully that makes sense. And I don't want to disrespect anything you're coming to the table with, because I know the feeling of coming late to the party.
No, I appreciate it. I will tell you too, I'm completely used to being overruled. So I just wanted to say my piece.
I just wanted, Marvin, if you don't mind, just because I want to build off something Peter mentioned, just about sort of the issue of the day, if you will, because I know actually the two sort of areas that you just brought up, we actually came largely from other committees. I know the historic preservation folks really did a review of the history section and chapter, and they were comfortable with that. And a lot of that language and the pieces around sea level issues, climate adaptation, climate change, really the Conservation Commission wrote a good portion of that for us. And so again, I think, that's sort of where the focus is in a lot of ways over maybe some other natural resource issues. I think, so there is, I agree, there is a lot more specifics around that issue than there are just maybe around, the tributary streams and wetlands and those things. But, as I read the plan anyway, I see that there's enough in there to say, this is something still that the town needs to work on, and it is that implementation stage. So that's how I saw it anyway. But I totally agree that it's like, wow, we get very detailed on climate change, but that was what the committee brought. And, when we went out to all the committees, that's what Conservation Commission came back with. And great, thank you. You're the experts in the field, so we'll roll with it, right?
And Jay, as long as you feel that the comp plan has what you need to empower you in conversation about development, resource management, as long as you feel empowered that it's in there, I think that checks the boxes for me. Thank you. You and your staff are empowered.
And the committee.
Marvin, did you have something to?
Oh, I wanted to very briefly respond to you, Robin. When I came on the committee with Peter, the history section, we did discuss, it did seem to be not a lot of meat on the bone. And I just want you to know, we did review the issues you're bringing up and decide, and Peter put it very well, what the conclusion or the summary was. And about TIF, I don't know probably nearly as much about that as many of the other committee members here, and certainly not you, Robin. Certainly don't know what you know. But when I did my granular reading over the course of the last 5 days or so, I actually thought, as a layperson, I understood TIF a lot better than I did even before from the comprehensive plan. And you can't say that a lot about the comprehensive plan because it's such a high level view. So it provided, at least to this one committee member, some clarification and guidelines for whatever that's worth. I don't take anything away from what you're saying. I'm sure a great deal more could be said about it, but that's it.
Thanks.
Oh, Dave,
No,
pardon me. We're getting to the time. I apologize. Something somewhat serious came up last night with me, and I have to jump off at 8:45 or thereabouts, 8:50. And just wanted to let you know.
thank you.
Likewise, I'm with Marvin. I have to hop off at 8:45 also. I'm just returning from vacation. So today's my first day back, but wanted to be on this meeting to see you all and say my piece. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
So, go ahead, Dave.
Jay. Yep.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I think you all saw Marvin gave a nice list, page and a half or more of some minor edits. Folks are good with those. I'm assuming they're grammatical and there's one or two that I might have a follow up with Marvin on as I go through them a little further. But outside of that, I think they're all fairly straightforward and not in any way really what I would call substantive. They're more in the copy edit side of things. So assuming committee's all good with those, and as I saw in some of the email responses and heard a little bit this meeting, but I just want to confirm that you're comfortable with those type of edits occurring.
All set here.
I'm good with them.
Yeah, I certainly trust Marvin's red pen, so I'm good.
Great.
Okay. Any concluding remarks then? I mean, I think we can probably wrap this up, Jean Marie.
Yeah, having been involved with this since day one, and God, it was 4 years ago. I can't believe it. I want to thank everyone for all of the work that they've done. Since I won't be here for your meeting, is it next week? 2
Next
weeks?
Friday.
Whatever. Oh, God, time flies. I think when I look at how we started, and it was, the charrettes and everything that's been done, and then the edits, and then the thoughtful input, and the number of people who've been involved, both on the long range planning committee members who cycled in and out, as well as the public. I think what we've come up with is a plan that I think makes a lot of sense and will be very helpful to this town in the next 10 years. So I just want to thank everyone for all of their hard work on it.
Thank you. Then I guess if we need a motion, I'd make a motion that we
do have, just want to be sure we mentioned that we did have opportunity for public comment, but there's no one on the in the meeting. So opportunities there, but no one's here. So
We ran them all off. Yeah. So.
wear them out.
yeah, hopefully we haven't worn out the committee.
So Jay, in terms of regular committee meetings,
Next meeting is June 4th at 8 o'clock. And that will be presumably a meeting for this committee to vote the plan out of committee and make a formal recommendation to council.
okay, thanks.
And Jay, I think our normal regular committee meeting would be on July 2nd, the first Friday.
Yeah, that's probably not an ideal time, is it?
I was going to say that's probably not a great day. I just wanted to raise that point. And given the June 30 committee meeting, I'd actually move to not have a meeting in July and just pick things up in August.
I would agree with that because the council, we're leaning towards not any meetings in July. So there you go.
That'd be great. Yeah.
You won't get arguments from staff, I'll say that.
Okay.
All right,
I move, we adjourn.
Second.
I second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Nice Memorial Day weekend,
Very
everybody.
good.